All right, we'll go ahead and get started this evening, and we'll begin with roll call.
Rob Keller.
Here.
Caroline Langwalter. Here. Sue Wilson.
Here.
Don Kramer.
Here.
Ben Metzger.
Here.
Ken Breslin.
Here.
Lori Adler. Here.
Excellent. We'll move on to our good news with Mr. Sadoff.
Okay, there's a pretty good variety in here this time. It was kind of, as I was putting this together, busy end of fall season type things. You have a list of all-state participants, the All-State Music Festivals this weekend. Then you have a few pictures of middle school student council. They were up at Camp Dodge doing the leadership course. You have Mr. Whitaker's advanced oral communications class, getting some very good practice. In that picture, they're talking to the life skills classroom. We also had a couple of students come in and speak to our admin team. Girls swimming is in here a couple of times with updates on meets. You have a picture of the middle school Pride Plus recipients there. Boys and girls cross country is concluded now, but we did have the girls team up at state and 2 individual boys runners at state. You have a picture there, kind of fun pictures from Irving 4th grade. They were in their new language arts curriculum doing a unit on the Middle Ages, and they got dressed up in period costumes there for that. A little blurb on the Indianola UNICEF Club and some fundraising that they are doing. Then congratulations to our high school Heisman Scholarship Award winners, our local winners, Lauren Blake and Walker Whalen. As I said, girls swimming is in there again. We had several students up in Des Moines at the Iowa Best Conference and summit looking at some mental health type things and presenting on our MVP program, Mentors in Violence Prevention. There's a note there about Mole Day, and I asked Ms. Sorensen to give me an official description so I didn't butcher what Mole Day was. I know it's a science thing and it has to do with moles, but there's moles, not the animals, but the number. And they were first out of 130 schools in a competition there. You have a picture or two from Mrs. Wolf's life skills class. They had a cafe open for school staff and students and families. And then a note there on Carter Erickson, who was the 4A scholarship winner for the Iowa Bankers Association Football Student Athlete Achievement Award. So lots of things going on, and continue to follow Facebook. If you aren't in the habit of getting on there, usually these things show up there more quickly, and then I kind of pull them together for a board meeting night. So a lot of good things happening.
Thanks, Art. Any board member reports?
We had a wellness meeting on Tuesday, I think. Just continuing to look how we can support the teachers, what kind of self-care and like emotional safety things that we can provide for them, with really trying to figure out what is stuff we can provide and things they'll attend, because it's 2 totally different things. We put together a bunch of things in the spring from this committee for our staff to attend, and nobody attended them. So trying to figure out where that line is, that we can figure that out. But I also wanted to say too, my daughter loves me. I chaperoned the middle school dance on, when was that?
Friday night.
Friday night. And I will just wanted to say that I think they said there were over 580 kids there, and it was absolutely wonderful. Our kids were very good. There was lots of different kids there, lots of different personalities, lots of different likes and unlikes, and there wasn't one issue. Miss Ellis and Mr. O'Mara did a great job. The chaperones, I think, were 30-some parents that came out, but we had some 8th grade teachers in the mix dancing, and it was just, sometimes there's negativity around the middle school, but I wanted to make sure that the parents knew, the kids all, it was amazing. It was amazing. There was like nothing at all.
A ton of them.
Yes. The parents didn't like trying to pick their kid up afterwards, trying to get 580 kids out of here, but it was great. So for all the administrators at the middle school, they did a really nice job.
Cool. I'll piggyback that too. Like, I went to the Veterans Day Assembly with Art and Ray, and yeah, it was really good. The middle school did an incredible job. They kind of paired it up with the high school this year, and did a really nice job and involved quite a few students and stuff from both schools. They did a really good job. Mrs. Ellis should be proud of that. Anyone else? Anything? Okay. we'll move on to our consent agenda. Or let's see, actually, before we do that, any delegations petitions?
Just me.
Just you? Go ahead, Amy.
Nothing scary. I've just heard a lot about associates, having a hard time getting associates, and our zoning maybe has been an issue with class sizes. So I was actually an associate years back, and I've talked with a couple other associates that are currently working for our district. And one thing I think would be beneficial is the tier pay. I think they've possibly talked to you guys about that already. I know there was a $1 raise so far. But I think in previous meetings that I've attended, with each level comes more money for the district. So that was kind of intriguing to me, thinking like, okay, well, with each level makes it harder for the associate. So I think that would be something to offer them. And the other thing is training. When I was an associate, and not even maybe training, just like even if there was a journal or a log from years past, like here's this situation, here's what you can do, here's what we don't want you to do. You know, because it's like when you finally get like Mr. Damon or Mr. O'Mara, or who I worked with, you know, not knowing my limits, when they can come and they're kind of like, okay, we can do this or this, and then the problem is resolved, and I'm like, well, I could have done that, you know, I just didn't know what I was supposed to do. So I think that would be also beneficial. And the zoning for schools, I know that this is like really scary and people would probably freak out, but it was another thing that was intriguing to me of other districts doing, each school would be like certain grades. And I think at the last meeting I heard Art say Whittier was originally like a 2-section school, Emerson's 3 and Wilder's 4. So I'm wondering if we could just divide them up, you know, have Whittier be kindergarten and preschool, and then Emerson being first, second, third, or, you know, like you'd have to figure that out. But the other part of that is I've heard there's some of the behavioral kids that are older and they have to block off, you know, parts of the school if there's a behavioral issue going on in a hallway, you know, then that prevents like the younger kids being exposed to those older kids having any of those issues. And then the last thing, this is a little bit off topic, but SIAC was brought up in the last meeting as well. And in addition to having college-ready students, SIAC has also talked a lot about what if they don't want to go to college? You know, what about those trades? What are other options? I just talked to somebody who graduated last year, and she's sitting in my chair, you know, because I was doing her hair. And she's like, I felt like I was going to fail at life, basically, because I didn't want to go to college. But she's like, I'm thriving, you know, I have a job, I have my own place. So I know I talked to a counselor last year about having the linesman come and speak, and she said that she had enough for the trades day, or I don't know how many days there are, but and I don't know what that would look like specifically, but I think it would be something to work on, having more business people even from around, like if we did a day that was like people from around the square, you know, I think that would be neat. Yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
And I know we don't really engage and we won't get back and forth, but I'll just offer a little context for a few things there too. I think there are several things brought up. The tiered pay for associate idea, basically an associate salary schedule, that is an idea that is out there. That would be a collective bargaining issue, since that's part of the master contract. So just that would not be something just to decide and do. That would be something that's bargained, worked through. Training do's and don'ts. You know, we do have, in the last few years, lots of work has been done on the associate handbook that would have do's and don'ts, and we've put some attention on training there as well. The zoning for schools, that would be colloquially called grade alike, rather than neighborhood schools like we have now, and that's a big change, one that you definitely want to do in a very measured way. The drawback to it for most parents that don't like the idea of grade alike would be the multiple transitions, you know, from building to building to building with the grade levels versus having a neighborhood school. That's definitely an idea out there as well.
Can I just, so 1 year I had one kid at Indianola preschool, one at the elementary, and one at middle school. And I know that would be a huge concern. But as long as everybody's kind of tiered with times like we are now, I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of pushback if that was something that came to the table, but it's doable.
Behavior, certainly not grade dependent, in terms of younger, older kids. We have, issues across there. And in terms of SIAC and the trades, I think because we've reported different times, Mr. Siebersma will be back again in January, I believe, with an update on career technical areas and the trades. We're putting lots of emphasis there. And the Missouri Valley Lineman School has an open house coming up that I know we'll have people at, and I think some kids at. And we definitely welcome people to come in from the trades and talk to our kids. So just a few extra comments there.
Well, and we talked about something in curriculum with Jamie Busby. And
Yeah,
how
we have a new school to work program,
School to work
a formal program for
and
the
how,
first time
like,
this year.
I can put in my needs at my business, and we can submit
Oh, yeah,
it
there's
into this
that's
program,
the clearinghouse.
right? And we can submit it into the program, and any one of our students can apply for this. And like, that's how the new menus at Pete's
Yeah,
got designed. is
yeah,
by
and
our
that's
students.
related to Governor's Future Ready Iowa.
Yeah, okay. I couldn't remember exactly what the
Yeah, we also have a year-round school.
I didn't include them in the 3, but.
Yep. So just a few things to think about there.
All right, let's move on to the consent agenda.
Go ahead.
If there are no further discussion, I'll move approval of consent agenda.
Moved by Ken to approve,
I will second. I said, we'll do it
We'll do it
time.
together, last one, together.
seconded by Lori
And
and
Carolyn.
Carolyn. Look, John's like, how do I do
Third
this?
it.
You get to decide, don't tell us.
Unanimous
We'll read it
second.
later. All those, any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Any presentations this evening?
Not tonight. We'll have Whittier here November 29th.
Okay. And then, let's see, next would be our board policies committee meeting report.
Yep. Not a new report for you since November 2nd, but just doing I guess this, yeah, that's right. This is a first reading, isn't it? My mistake, yep. So we do have a report. Guys, if you want to.
Yeah, bring your.
There was a mismatch, but here, there's the names of all the different ones that we had, as we went over that, in that section and a few others. All the changes seem to be very minor. Adjustments the Iowa Association of School Boards had suggested, or clarifications of words, or our continual process that we're going through to make sure, anytime it says the superintendent's responsible, we put in there or designate so we can establish that. And Art, did we, pretty much it, there was no major change or anything?
No, there wasn't any big change. Like Ken said, you see some different numbers. We typically do one series at a time, but there was an ISB policy primer that came out around the same time. So I don't think there was any substantive change in any of them.
Just adding or designee in a lot, or in a lot of places where it says lowest, we've changed to most immediate level supervision.
I will, if there's no questions, move approval of the first reading.
Motion made by Ken to approve the first reading of those board policies.
Second.
Seconded by Carolyn. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right. Next is the canvass of election.
I can read that. I already just received it today. The Veterans Day took them out a day to try and get everything completed. So I will read the abstract of votes, and then you'll know who obviously is here, sitting here. that won. So Scott Duncan received 390 votes. Lisa Cause received 475 votes. Erin Laverty received 1,249. Clemente Love, 1,244. Nicholas Malstadt, 1,498. Tim Mills, 1,669. Mac Rankin, 1,551. Patty Sierig Alexander, 1,166. Tony Tungland, 372. Ryan Whirling, 2,319. There was a scattering of 12 write-ins for a total of 11,945 votes.
I'm going to give the new members a certificate from the election, and then we're going to say farewell to our departing members, and we'll have you join the table in just a minute. So, just a second. Congratulations. Thank you. And in terms of our departing members, we have at your places, we have a plaque of appreciation for you, and I know at least one of the three of you is an avid coffee drinker, so we've got a coffee mug there, and a certificate for each of you. And I don't have a script, but just by way of expressing appreciation, Carolyn Langenwalter, 15-year member now, and I know has balanced tremendous responsibility at work as well, and there are a lot of meetings and a lot of juggling that goes into being a board member. And I know that we will miss the institutional knowledge going out the door, so
Still text me.
we will probably have you on speed dial.
Yeah.
Ken Bresnan came back for a third helping, three different time periods as a board member with mayoral stint in there as well, and certainly appreciate you taking your retirement hours to serve the district. And Lori Abernathy, probably as busy on the community level as most people you'll find with Heel House, with all she does through concessions, AAU, equestrian, just many community connections. So appreciate you making one more here as a board member. So thank you so much. I say all the time, I think school board service is some of the most important volunteer service out there. And I think this board as a whole, and certainly you departing members, you've had lots to deal with, a lot of weighty decisions, and I think you consistently have looked at what is going to serve our students and families well. You've kept in mind that you're representative of the community, but you also have representative status. I mean, you're your own person and making decisions as you evaluate the information. So really appreciate your contributions and your time on the board. How about a round of applause?
Yes. And we'll make sure to have now 45-minute meetings.
Yes.
We're just gonna call you to adjourn. Can we just call you? You just call.
Now, coffee.
You can dial it.
Oh, wait.
Good luck, kids.
No, I don't think I do.
And if you would all come, find your name, come to the table, and Jonna will administer oath of office to you, and we'll get you
Fun, guys.
duly sworn in, and we'll get you going. I think we're ready. Yep.
Okay, would you stand and raise your right hand?
Oh, man, yeah, I should
This
not
is
put right under
serious, right?
TV,
Yeah.
sorry.
Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and will you faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge all the duties of the office of board member in the Indianola Community School District as now or hereafter required by law?
I will.
Sit down.
Honeymoon's over, John. It's
About
time to boss you around.
Sit down.
Well, you don't work with her.
Get to work, right? So,
All right. Okay, we have the office. Next is the election of our board officers. So we would just need nominations for board officers.
so I'll take over from here until the board president gets
Okay.
elected. So you just need,
So do we just give your,
you can nominate.
okay, so I am going to nominate Rob as president and Ben as vice president.
We're doing
Oh,
president
just president first, okay.
Any others? Without, then we'll do, it's a unanimous ballot for Rob Rob, do you accept?
I accept.
Okay. There you go.
With enthusiasm.
I mean, I accept.
Okay, Sue, do you want to do your second?
Sure, I nominate Ben Metzger as vice president.
Ben, do you accept the nomination? Is there any others? Nomination? Okay. Another unanimous ballot? We'll save these for, so, thank you. You need to.
Another oath
Yep,
for our
an oath.
officers
It's
now.
gonna sound familiar.
Both of them at the same time?
Yep, we can do it. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and will you faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge all the duties as president and vice president in the Indianola Community School District as now or hereafter required by law? Thank you.
Now we have kind of organizational things that the board needs to figure out. So
So next we're going to figure out our meeting dates and times. I know that there's a conflict, so we'll need to work through that this evening and figure out how we want to do that. So Monday evenings don't work for Dr. Worley, and is there another night that works for other people of the week? I think most of the district's music's on Monday nights, and a lot of sport activities are on Tuesday night, I feel.
you're going to, as far as activities, you're going to get something every night except for Wednesday, which is kind of reserved, for religious education, for family time. So, I mean, we schedule very little on Wednesday night in terms of activities, if you're trying to miss that. Concerts, I don't know. Those of you who have kids in music right now, you might know the days better than
Tuesday
I.
and Thursday night.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Monday, Tuesday.
You're going to have a lot of, you're going to have a lot of basketball Tuesday, Friday, varsity level. Wrestling meets
Usually Thursday.
Thursday.
Is it Monday as a whole, or if we move the meeting time back, would that work?
Yeah, Monday could work if it was like 7 o'clock.
That's a long day for your staff to stay here.
I'm not, I don't want to, now I got to be careful how I say this. I'm not worried about my staff. I have been in a district that started at 7 o'clock. I think we would adjust. I mean, right now, there's not really a break to speak of between the workday and the board meeting. I think if you live close by, probably what would happen is people would get accustomed to running home for a little bit in between and coming back. The only drawback to a 7 o'clock meeting is if you get into those kind of marathon meetings, it's not a lot of fun to be in a meeting at 11 o'clock or later, which might happen at times. But this really, make this a board decision. This is the board calendar, and our staff will be there.
What do you guys think on a Wednesday evening? Is that open for you guys, not open for you?
And how early can others be here? Can it be, it's 5:30? Because even on Tuesdays, at 5:30, if you're going to a competition, don't they start at 7?
Varsity level's usually about 7:45, but you're starting, we'll play like 3 levels of basketball, for example, starting at 4:45. So, I mean, you're not going to miss all conflicts,
Yeah.
no matter when you pick. So,
We are open Wednesday at the food pantry from 6 to 8 p.m. But if we do twice a month, I can, that would be my last choice. I would go on a Tuesday night at 5:30 or a Monday at 7 before Wednesday.
That's kind of how I feel. Monday at 7 or Tuesday at 5:30 would work well. I think we kind of discussed that, the 3 new board members did.
Monday at
7
or
Tuesday at 5:30, if that works for
What about for
everybody.
the rest of us then?
I prefer a 5:30 meeting.
5:30 on Tuesday? Would you prefer that?
I can make either work.
Yeah. I've kind of always blocked Mondays, so that's kind of our thing, but
I'm not
Tuesdays
Okay.
at 5:30, are people worried about missing their kids in sports? Yes,
Tuesday at 5. Yeah.
is that more, so I guess selfishly, we probably miss less of our kids' activities if we go Monday at 7.
Okay.
But that is a long day for people, so.
A long day for people.
Can we go earlier than 5:30? Can we go 5 on Tuesdays? Or is that too?
I'm fine, I can.
It was really Carolyn who was the hard one to get.
It's whenever you can get here from work. So again, that's totally up to the board.
I don't know what your flexibility is like.
I could make it work.
I can make 5 work. Ben,
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably in the same boat either way, so I'll make it work, be flexible.
I'm just trying to throw out an alternative.
Yeah.
Donna, you don't like the 7. I don't love the
I
7.
prefer not the 7 for myself and for people that work here besides, but yeah.
And this is a year thing, right?
For 1
Well, what we have here, and again, I think it's good to have some predictability for people,
Right.
you know, who want to view or might want to come speak, or for you all too. So what we have in the packet runs through next November, you know, is a year. These are just the corresponding Mondays, so obviously we'll change that if we need to go to a Tuesday. Just bump them all forward a day.
Well, if something doesn't work, you could make a, let the board know or let the.
We can, and I guess, you know, this is like a best laid plans thing, because we can pick the perfect, even if we have a great time, it's gonna come up where we have to have a special meeting sometime.
Right.
Um,
So
It's just gonna happen.
how about we start with Tuesdays at 5:30?
I'm okay with
Yes.
Tuesday at 5:30 if you guys.
Works for me.
Yes. Okay.
So Stephanie will do an updated list, get it out to everybody, but basically it'll just be what we have in the packet rolled forward one day. And I guess the other thing for you to think about, and we can talk about it right now if you like, you'll notice depending on where meetings fall with holiday break, with spring break, and then the summer really is a little bit slower. You know, none of our buildings are in session until Irving comes back mid-July. So we'll typically have 1 June meeting, 1 July meeting. Some years we'll have 2 March meetings. Where spring break fell this year, we did 1 kind of in between the 2nd and 4th. And we have 1 December meeting given where winter break fell. So that's why there's 2 meetings in some, 1 meeting in others. If you have a strong feeling, no matter what is going on with break or whatever, we want 2 meetings every month, or no, we only need 1, just give us 1 every month. I mean, again, this is the board calendar, the board schedule, so we will adapt to whatever you want, but if, I just want to explain, I guess.
We just had 1 last March, right?
What's that?
We just had 1 last March.
I think so. I would say more often than not, where spring break usually falls. There was 1 year we had 1 scheduled on the Monday of spring break, because we had heard early on, yeah, no problem, but then we did end up wanting it, so we've kind of stayed away from it. March is pretty typical to have 1. So,
Two in the summer.
okay. All right. So we'll just roll all those forward 1 day, stay
I
at
think it's fine
5:30.
with this, yeah.
Okay.
So next meeting will be Tuesday the 30th.
Yeah, so yeah, if we go to a Tuesday, yep, it'll be the 30th. I know that's getting close to Thanksgiving, but, yes. Good.
No, that's after Thanksgiving.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, that's right, yeah, I'm a week off, my mistake. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, next is the board committee meeting assignments. I think first, do any of the current board members want to switch anything?
Well, I was thinking do we have to do this tonight? The
I think
committee,
it'd be
well, I'm
We
just
don't have
thinking,
we don't have any agendas, anything set for anything right now.
okay, but then I think we need to give a little bit of a background, because I remember when I came on, they were like,
Oh,
okay,
I
pick a committee,
understand.
and I'm like, I have no idea
Yeah.
what I'm picking right now. So I think we need to give them a little bit of a
Okay.
walkthrough of what are committees, what do you do in these committees,
Okay.
what what it all means. Because I know we don't have, like, curriculum and finance, we don't meet till.
I did, new members, I talked a little bit about this, and I
Okay.
gave them just a little blurb and some information, but, yeah, those are the 6 main areas, and the titles are pretty descriptive of what you're doing. And maybe we have our cabinet here, central office cabinet leads different committees. Why don't you give your 30-second elevator pitch about your committee, and maybe start with curriculum?
30 seconds.
We love
Go.
curriculum. It really is more encompassing of a lot to do with the teaching and learning, not only course development, sometimes the state reports. We also look at,
Student achievement.
yeah, the student achievement scores usually come from the whole board also. But any type of professional development also that's being planned and implemented. So those would be probably the key areas of things that we look at.
Human resources?
Yes, and in charge of human resources, staffing, new positions, job descriptions, calendar, I don't know, anything HR related falls in my bucket.
That's good.
And the 2 Fs, finance and facilities, and they're the most fun. Facilities, we talk about, upcoming projects, issues that happen within our campus, whatever it would be. I mean, I'm trying to think of different things that, sometimes it falls outside of that. We've done transportation things as well doesn't fit anywhere within there for equipment and stuff. So there's big dollars that are involved in that, just because of the nature of the school district. But the finance piece that we look at, there are some HR type things in there, but mainly we've moved that to HR. Trying to think of the different things that we talk about. We look at enrollment and how it ties to our funding of our, for the district.
We share benefits.
Yep, different costs for benefits, and we've done different things through the years. Like, one of the examples that we did through finance was we went to a self-insurance program for our health insurance. So that took a couple years to get through. And gosh, I'm trying to think of anything else.
And there are different funding streams. Jonna will do projections and updates with different budgets. For example, in facilities, you have the fiscal plant equipment levy and the statewide penny, the SAVE fund that we use for different purposes. And typically every facilities committee meeting, she'll kind of give an update on where those budgets are.
Actually, that's in the finance, we put that on the
Oh, in
finance.
finance.
Facilities, yeah.
Okay.
Facilities will spend the money, and finance has to figure out how to get the money.
Gotcha, yeah. I will say one of our first facilities meetings, facilities committee meetings, we may want to take and make that a special board meeting and open to everybody. I know at some point, Envision Architects, pretty quickly in December, we want them to come talk to the board about the plan for the auxiliary services building and get the board stamp approval on that, because we'd like to go out to bid on that the end of January, 1st of February. So that's one of our big facilities things right now we've been looking at.
Is that about an hour? Probably.
I would say so. And we will also talk about time with these. You'll see those are all 7 a.m. meetings right now on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They haven't always been. Sometimes there have been some after-school ones. We can do those committee meetings whenever you want, and you're all going to probably end up on at least 2 committees, because we can't have a quorum of the board there, so we have 2 to 3 members on each committee. What's that?
They're only a year.
Yeah, and every year we look at them, so, yeah. Ray, IT, technology?
I'd like to say, save the best for last, so.
I haven't talked about policy yet, but go ahead.
So technology, yes, that's true. Technology, we generally discuss, the direction of technology in the district, where we're headed. That way we talk about projects that are upcoming. Some of those can be pretty large. And then occasionally we do talk about new policies or revised policies around technology as well. So that's it in a nutshell.
So the lists up there this isn't the current what we're on, all of them, because I'm on finance right now. And not
And not
facilities. Yeah.
Changed.
That must have just been a typo.
Usually I take them all off, they must have, yeah,
Yep.
so
Yeah, that's right.
we'll go with a clean slate and everybody gets.
That's okay, I just was, yeah.
I can't wait to get.
Policy, I don't know what you can say about policy. I've not been able, nobody's been able to wrestle policy away from Ben.
It might happen
You
tonight.
can have it, you can have it. You can have it.
There's with that, I will open up the, I would like to, I've been on policy the last 2 years, and I'm having too much fun, I think. So, I mean, I'd like to go on to human resources if I could. And I like facilities. I think, I don't know if Sue feels the same way. We have a lot going on in facilities, so I think it makes sense for maybe some of the people who are already on there to stay on there with what we've started, so.
And we have typically had some more experienced member or members on human resources. At one time, that used to kind of be president, vice president, past president. We went away from that a few years ago, but we have had to try to add some experienced people in that too.
I'll give up my seat on the policy. I'd like to try human
And
resources.
just to give you an idea, a little bit of talk about policies. Okay, by statute, we need to review all of our policies at least every 5 years. So we're continuously going through a bunch of policies like you saw on tonight's agenda. Lots of times it is pretty routine. There isn't a lot of updating. Sometimes there are some pretty big decisions. You know, maybe policy doesn't matter a lot until you need it or something happens. And then you want to make sure that we understand what our policy is, that we're following it, that we've updated it. When there's a change in the law, there's very frequently a change in policy that comes with it. So it is kind of important. It can be a little tedious, slogging through policies. I always get those out to the committee members well in advance before we meet, and lots of times I will have read them and already shared like my notes or what I think we need to change. And then the meetings aren't bad. I mean, they're an hour or less like all the other committees, but it's probably not a laugh a minute. If you have any tendency to not mind wordsmithing, that's always good too. So anyway, but yeah, Ben probably has paid his dues. He's been on there a couple of years. So.
And I would like to go on human resources. I've been on curriculum 2 years, I've been on facilities, I've been on finance, and I'm happy to stay on any of those, but I get off one and do HR.
Do you want to stay with human resources?
I would love HR too, so, you know, but I think, do we still have the
Do I have
board?
to stay on that?
Does the president have to stay if the VP's on it?
Doesn't have to. I mean, if there's a serious HR matter that comes up, you know, it's going to come before the full board anyway. But like Mimi said, that's more developing job descriptions, sometimes having that first conversation about prioritizing between different things. So.
So I
Which one was the other one that you wanted on?
I was gonna let the other board, I'd like to be on HR, and then if people want, and that's sick of me,
And Ben wants to be off policy. You mentioned you'd like to stay on facilities.
Facilities
I
and
think you
HR.
mentioned HR.
And Sue, what was?
Yeah, I would like human resources, but if that's too many,
I can
that's
give it,
okay.
If Rob moves off, that's fine.
Okay.
I don't know, yeah, if I can move on. that's fine with me.
Yeah.
I will actually move to technology. Ray's like, oh.
You do finance.
Not yet. Maybe my 4th year I'll do finance. No.
Sue, are you intending to move off curriculum too?
Well,
For now?
one of us.
do you want one?
Well, you won't want 4. Are you planning on staying on facilities?
I would like to stay on facilities.
You want
But
three?
if we need to pull me off facilities and go to curriculum, we can do that once we hear from other people.
I won't put you on facilities yet. How's that?
I'll stay on finance.
You're staying on finance?
I'll stay on, well, I guess I'll just everybody else.
Yeah.
I'll do
I can-
whatever,
yeah.
I'll do whatever for the other.
We have, really what we have pretty full right now probably is HR is full. But what other, our new members, what's
Is that because Mimi makes
sounding appealing?
breakfast every morning?
I love to cook.
I'd do facilities if there's a spot there. I'm happy to be on finance.
Who said that?
Yeah, that's probably good. Although school finance is definitely different than finance.
Donna, were you wanting to get off finance?
I'm gonna get off. I'm such a help to John, that's all. I can get off, John.
Who do we have on facilities?
I have Ben and Tim right now on facilities.
If I can stay, that would be great,
You
but
wanna
if,
stay with, okay.
Okay.
And Sue. So it's facilities is full and human resources full. Curriculum and policy need somebody.
I'm happy to
Technology
go
needs
into
some.
one of those.
Yeah, I agree with those two.
Finance.
For curriculum,
It's fine.
You can do finance too.
Oh, yeah, that would be.
and Mac, which one did you want to do?
Curriculum is fine. Ben's was so eager to get rid of policy that scared me away.
Don't let it scare you. It's actually fun.
It's pretty painless.
It's fun.
It really is.
You
It's
like consistency. It's a good gig.
You want us on 2 or 3?
2 for sure, and then we'll see where we end up. I got
I can go on policy too if we need to.
Yeah, it's actually.
technology, I just have Sue.
no, never will be.
I mean, I can do that, or I can just stay on finance, I don't care.
We'll do finance and facilities, those two.
So we'll have enough for finance.
Yeah, we've got finance full, Tim, Rob,
Then
Mac.
you don't have to.
Okay. And
We have
Ben, Tim,
facilities
Sue.
full, Ben, Sue, Tim.
We've got 2 on curriculum, Ryan
HR
and Mac. Human resources is full, Ben, Donna, and Sue. Policy, Ryan is lonely, and Sue is lonely on technology. So we
I
could-
like tech.
No, what were you saying?
I was gonna, I enjoy technology.
You go
Enjoy
speak
what?
up, Rob, that's
We
right.
can leave Rob on
Everybody
tech.
enjoys technology.
Not that I don't enjoy HR. They kicked me out.
Okay.
So I could use somebody else
I can
on
do policy.
policy. Donna, thank you.
What's that leave us one on policy and tech?
We've got Ryan and Donna on policy now, so.
So I've got 2 on everything, so if anybody, I've got.
So we're covered, but if somebody wants another one, if somebody wants to join curriculum, policy, or technology, they could.
You can put me on technology.
So, and typically, have you had, policy 2 is all, I think Art has always just had 2 for a long time.
Yeah.
And curriculum, 2 is good? Okay. So and let me restate this so everybody knows that, so I've got it correct. Curriculum, I have Ryan and Mac. Facilities, I have Ben, Tim, and Sue. Finance, I have Rob, Mac, and Tim. Human Resources, Ben, Donna, and Sue. Policy, Ryan and Donna. And Technology, Sue, Rob, and Mac. Did I miss anybody?
Do any of those times need to change?
Did the mornings work for everyone?
One thing it does is it kind of enforces us to
Done.
have our agenda pretty tight, because we go no later than 8 o'clock, and we're out, and sometimes it's even quicker, but.
Is that good for everyone? 7?
Yours and mine.
Yeah, Tuesday is having a 7 AM meeting and
Oh, to go all night, to go.
I think we have
Yep.
a long,
Oh.
But it's at 5:30, so it's a regular.
right. So, if
Yeah.
it goes to 9 o'clock, that's a
Yeah.
long day for everybody involved in that. That's just on Tuesday.
That's not a normal day.
Was that?
It's
How,
not a normal
how
day.
are you? You're like, you have early morning.
So,
So
Is that
could you,
too
would
long
you
for
want to
you?
do?
I'm
So-
fine
is that
with
too
a
long?
Tuesday morning.
I can do whatever.
Yeah, I can do it
I can
too,
do
I
it
just
too,
wanted to
it's
point
just-
out that it
Oh.
could make for a long day.
All those two.
Because we have
With
4,
your
we have
calendar,
all
whatever
4
you guys want.
Tuesdays, yeah.
But it's the 2nd and the 4th, and are we keeping ours the 2nd and the 4th Tuesdays?
For the most part.
Because we could go, I mean,
So you could go first
we
and
could
third.
go first and third to the big
Oh,
one.
but you have,
Overlap.
yeah, but you have,
I know.
as long as you, and the other thing, even if it works for those members, I usually go to all the committee meetings, so if you schedule finance and policy at the same time, then I won't be at finance. Or if you schedule HR and tech at the same time, I'd have to pick, so.
I would say something that's hard, a little bit difficult for the HR side is if we have a board meeting, like right now, we have it the night before, and then whatever happens at the board meeting, to have a committee meeting at 7 AM the next day, what decisions have been made, and now the agenda's a little bit wonky, so sometimes that,
Well, we have
we have,
a 3rd and 4th Thursday available. that we could move some of the Tuesday mornings to.
That's
So
true.
the Tuesday night board meeting, that would give, you know, any decisions that are made at that board meeting or any conversation, we have at least a little bit
Yeah,
of
so you
time.
can take HR and policy and put them on third and fourth Thursday.
So we could do Thursdays.
So, maybe second and fourth, you mean?
No.
No.
We've got curriculum on second Thursday, facilities on first Thursday.
Oh, I see
We could
what
do
you're saying.
HR third Thursday, policy fourth Thursday. If you want to.
So what was it, human resources, what is it?
HR third Thursday, policy fourth Thursday.
Oh, same. I think they're
And
done.
your fourth Thursday.
Is that what, HR was third Thursday?
Thursday, yeah.
So that's this Thursday. Is this the third Thursday?
Okay, thank you. We'll get the dates out and send, so you can put it on.
Thanksgiving, let's do it
So
that.
there is there's a board Google calendar that you'll all have access to that will have, should have all of our meetings on it.
Will, after we get them set, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they're-
Yep.
These are your meetings, so if you want a meeting this Thursday, which would be the third Thursday, that's fine.
Well, we have to be downtown.
Yeah,
We have the
Yeah, this
school.
Thursday's no good. Yep, 18th, and then next Thursday's Thanksgiving, so.
And we won't be meeting for finance tomorrow morning, so.
Oh, we don't.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because it's only the first.
Yeah. So you can sleep in tomorrow.
I thought it was downtown here in Westchester.
Okay?
Good? Everyone's good?
So
Okay.
policy's the fourth Thursday.
Policy
That's
is
what I
the
put down,
first
yeah.
Tuesday.
No,
Policy's the first.
no, it's the fourth Thursday. You didn't update that. We moved it off
Which that,
Tuesday.
didn't you? I thought it was.
I thought technology was the fourth Thursday.
It's the fourth Tuesday. That's what it has been.
That one's staying the same.
Because
Curriculum
That
set-
would be a board meeting date, though.
Yeah.
Oh, second,
yeah,
fourth Tuesday,
That's
yeah.
right, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine, maybe it's up to you guys. I mean, I could do
Okay.
I feel
Monday.
like that's okay.
So
Like,
I
fourth
could do Monday,
Thursday.
Wednesday, whatever.
For policy?
You know, it's really not that. I mean, we're 7 o'clock. We're here, usually here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Not long
so
as-
fourth Tuesday for
So,
technology.
I really.
It's fourth Thursday. Policy, okay.
Well, let's get the schedule out and see what it looks like, and if there are problems, we'll tweak.
So no committee meetings this week or next week,
Correct.
Because of, yeah.
because of the holiday?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
We might never meet
It's the
for
easiest
policy.
decision we have to make.
That'll be
What's that?
the fourth Thursday of this month, and then in December, the fourth
And we
Thursday
do
will be
need to
Christmas
approve
break.
those.
You know what? We are a little bit ahead because of Ken and Ben's hard work. So we're
I
not
know
up
Ryan will be
against.
sad about that, but we'll be okay.
So you can enjoy the fruits of Ben's labor now that he got off the committee. You didn't know they were going to get a couple meetings off, did you?
So do we need to make a,
You gotta find that missing period in the policy. The first meeting.
Too bad, Dad. We're sorry.
You'll get it done. Oh, okay. So, whatever was discussed, we need to approve.
we have it, yeah.
I'm not gonna repeat all that though, but.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve
Yeah.
meeting times and committee appointments.
Board meetings, yeah.
Make a motion to approve the board committee assignments and meeting dates and times as noted.
I'll second.
Motion made by Ben, seconded by Sue. Any further discussion by the current board? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, next is the appoint Warren County Conference Board member.
So that is, you want me to explain that?
Yeah, would you?
That is basically, I think it's a one meeting a year commitment. And basically, you're setting the budget for the county and the salaries, I believe, it's,
I think so.
different people have had it.
Me? So I'm gonna do that?
No, nominate Sue. Sue said she would be willing.
I do. I'll move to nominate Sue and appoint her to the Warren County Conference Board member.
Second. First, motion made by Ben, seconded by Mac. Any further discussion by the board? Oh wait, Sue, do you accept?
Yes.
Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thanks, Sue. Sue's going to serve on that. Next is the 2022-2023 traditional calendar. With Mimi.
Oh, the calendar was in the board packet, wasn't it?
It is, yep.
There's a list of things that are required, and there are a list of things that are preferred, and there's only so many days. So, one of the things that is required is no earlier than an August 23rd start. We met that with this calendar. The master contract says a 1 hour early dismissal before Thanksgiving and winter break. That's on this calendar. A minimum of 1,080 hours is on this calendar. 190 teacher contract days. We met that. Spring conferences preferred state wrestling. That's preference. That is when spring conferences are. So that was a check in the box. Traditionally no school on Friday of state wrestling. Check in the box there. Even number of days per quarter, we got that. No 1 day student weeks, so if we have like a holiday break or something, there's not a week, but there's only 1 day of school, so that was met in this. Typically, we don't have school on Martin Luther King Day, which is January 16th. That was met with this calendar. It's preferred to have 2 weeks at winter break when possible. That was not met with this calendar. Spring break coincide with Des Moines Public Schools. That happened. Student days ending prior to Memorial Day. We did not get that accomplished with this calendar. Right, there's still student days after Memorial Day. Seniors are finished no more than 5 days before other students. Got that. 36 hours of PLC time is required. We did that. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, they would like to not have school. That's a preference. That is included in this calendar. A work day following the last day of quarter 2, we made that a flex day. I know it's really helpful for in the high school to do grades to have that day after the semester ends to get that done, and maybe elementary students or elementary teachers.
And maybe just a word on flex days too. Sometime back, years ago, there were flex days included in the calendar. Then there weren't for a number of years. And then a couple of years ago, we had 2. And the whole concept behind a flex day is if you have not previously made the hours up prior to that day, you're expected to have that be a work day. So for example, if I am a high school teacher and I know I'm going to be doing grades that day anyway, maybe I don't worry, I'm just going to have that be a work day. But there would be things that I could do as a teacher prior to that day. Maybe there's some required trainings like the excitement of bloodborne pathogens, which is almost as exciting as policy committee, not quite. There are different things, getting my classroom ready, all kinds of work I could do different times. And there's a pretty easy process. We just have staff log those hours, half-day increments, let your principal know, who keeps a record, and then if you've met those hours before that flex day occurs, that's just a day off. So like Flex says, it's just a little flexibility for staff. And it was tough to get a flex day in this calendar. Then the idea was proposed that what had been a teacher work day that day anyway, make that a flex day. And then if people are able to get those hours in prior to that day, they'd have a day off. So when we talk about flex day, that's what that is.
There's a strong recommendation from the board to get to 180 student days. So this calendar does have 180 student days. Teacher flex days, we were able to get that one by changing that work day to a flex day. And then the other thing that is preferred is time for kindergarten, 6th grade, and 9th grade orientation. So when they move into that new building, having a flex day at the beginning of the year for that transition to help those students. And I know it's a big big deal at the middle school, and we were not able to get that as part of this calendar. The constructs are 190 teacher days and 180 student days. So we've got 10 days to kind of play with as far as professional development and work days and 2 vacation days. Yep. And I know, some of the hot button issues, at least from my seat, from an HR perspective, a staff perspective, is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and the 2 weeks at Christmas. Well, you can't start before August 23rd, and there's a desire to be done, before June. And we got so many days in there, so it's like this puzzle piece trying to get it all in there. So that's kind of why I listed out what's required and what what was preferred and what we were able to make work and what we weren't able to make work in this calendar.
So did you do this with teachers, with their teacher input? I mean, we used to do the calendar at Irving all the time to get the year-round calendar going. So how did you
I got all of the input from, we want to see 2 weeks at Christmas, we want to see this, so I took all of that, and then, really there's only 1 or 2 ways that you can fit all that in, so.
So did they know that, the teachers know that, if they took the Thanksgiving, they wouldn't get the Christmas, the 2 weeks at Christmas?
I'm not sure if they know that, but as we publish the calendar, I think once it's approved, I'll make sure that, because of time constraints, I'll kind of go through the list of what we were able to get and what we wanted to communicate that with all staff.
The other thing that's alluded to here, it talks about inclement weather and the hours versus days. This gets a little interesting because we are on days with teachers, 190 contract days, but we're on minimum hours with students, which is 1,080 minimum by statute. So we do have the 180 student days and 1,150 instructional hours. So there are 70 hours more than the minimum requirement, and most of the board in the past has felt like it's okay to be above the minimum. But where that comes into play with snow days, we wouldn't necessarily have to have students come back for every snow day. If there's a snow day in December, I keep a running total on my board in my office, of how many hours required, where we're at, how many we have over the minimum. At some point, if we're going to make a change to the calendar, this is a board-approved calendar. Anytime we change something here, we bring it back to the board for approval. But on that snow day decision, for example, let's say we have a snow day right before Christmas break or something, kids wouldn't be in school that day, and they wouldn't have to make it up unless the board really decides that they want to put those hours back in over the minimum.
But the teachers would have to.
But it is a teacher contract day, so if the teachers aren't working that day, they have a work day or PD day that would be added on to the end of the calendar. So you'll undoubtedly hear conversations like that as we run into weather. So I just want to put that out there as you approve this. But it is helpful to have extra above the minimum hours built in the calendar. That gives us some flexibility. What we did one year also, when we had a number of snow days, I think we had maybe 5 or 6, this has been a couple of years, and that calendar to begin with had 4 teacher work days at the end of the year. And so we were adding work days and work days and work. And this was actually when COVID hit, because we would have had 8 teacher work days at the end of that COVID year when it hit. That's a lot. I mean, we can use some time for sure for professional development, end of the year time, safety training where we're always scrambling to find time, but 8 days is a lot. Now this calendar doesn't have that to begin with. It has half a work day, at the end there is all. So if we have a couple of snow days, I personally wouldn't be that bothered at not making kids make up a couple of snow days and having a couple of extra days at the end of the year where we could do training with staff. So that's kind of where my head is at with this calendar. But if we have a large number of snow days or something, then we'll have the board talk about it. We're allowed by law to do remote learning days. We haven't done it, but we have devices that will be coming to K-5. So the possibility is there. We learned a lot about remote learning the last couple of years. If that's something that we wanted to do, we could do that. I know I put that out there last year as a, hey, this could happen at some point. And there was a little pushback. People get sentimental about snow days. They like, don't take our snow day away. Don't make it a remote learning day. So we haven't done that yet, but that's also allowed by law.
So even this half a day on May 31st, we can't have one student day a week. So just by adding that half, that still falls in that? Oh, okay.
Well, that's not a law. You could have one student day.
That was a preference.
It's a preference because it's just, people don't really want to come back for one day. They may not want to come back for 1.5 either, but,
Amen.
Can the staff do remote learning on snow days or?
I was actually going to mention that and I forgot. We did two, that day that we ran into a bunch of snow days and we didn't want to tack a whole bunch of professional development days on the end. We did 2 collaboration days, we called them. We had it scheduled. We did have staff having the ability to collaborate remotely with each other. So that is something we've done once. You always run into if it's quality collaboration, if it gets done what you want it to, but that is something we can do. I mean, we really, as a district, we are in control of that, those work days, what they look like. So that is a possibility, yes.
Any other discussion from board members on the calendar? The only communication I had was just from a couple people that had mentioned not being a fan of going after Memorial Day. And then the other one was just the input of teachers and the input of parents. I think in the future it may be good to do a survey, kind of like what Des Moines did, to the parents to see what priorities parents still have in our district. Like, is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving as important as 2 full weeks, or wrestling tournament, all those things? Just to send an email out, I think it would be good to survey our families, since those are the people we serve in the district.
Didn't we, in the past, do 3 calendars and then the staff just voted on one and whatever one?
We have done that. A few years back, we developed 3 calendars, took them to the staff to narrow it to 2, took the 2 to the board to pick the final one. Last year, we used our handbook committee for some input. That turned out to be a little bit of a difficult process. I will say, and this is still relatively new to Mimi, but it is very tough to get the perfect calendar for everybody. And you've done a nice job of outlining some of the constrictions. We do, once you do it a few times and you start plugging in dates, you realize, I have less flexibility than I thought. Legislature set that August 23rd date, so that makes it really tough to get done before June. Des Moines was mentioned as an example. They added some holidays, did some different things. I think they're well into June, mid-June for the end. So you can you can do anything, but it really is tough to. Now, I'm not saying a survey is a bad idea, because there might be something comes back that is just overwhelming that we didn't think of, or that is kind of a tiebreaker between 2 things or something.
I know, Des Moines Public Schools, I think their teachers have 196 contract days, which gives a little bit more flexibility with professional development and stuff. And when we have 190 and 2 of those are holidays, we have 8 days to get work days of professional development and flex and all of the things that they want. There was a strong push for the board to have 180 student days. This year's calendar has 178, so if you don't like that day and a half after Memorial Day, this is your calendar. So if you want to adjust that 180, we do have a little bit of wiggle room, because with the state we're registered by hours and not days. So there is some wiggle room. Just know that there was a strong push and strong desire to have 180 student days in this calendar. So
Does commencement day count as a work day for staff? It's highlighted
reason we were trying to go for the 180 with the previous board was just to try to get more instructional time in. I think we just know that that's getting further and further away from, and they need more instructional time.
I think that was coming off of losing several months with COVID.
And also just, there's a lot to teach, I think, and a lot to get in. Any other discussion by the board? We'll need a motion to move forward. That's what we choose. Motion made by Tim. Traditional. Seconded by Ryan. Any further discussion by the board?
You made that comment, traditional calendar, we typically have approved the traditional, and then we'll go and kind of work off it for the Irving calendar. And for those of you that have less knowledge of the year-round, Irving will start earlier, and there's a different set of rules with the year-round calendar too. The legislature has set. We need to attend at least 10 days in 11 of the 12 months. We can't have more than 6 weeks off in the summer. Sometimes it's really tough to make that work, and they've allowed us to move a couple of days, like with the start of July. With the rollover in our student information system, it's really, we couldn't start July 2nd or whatever. We need to start more toward mid-July. So that'll be the next step, and that is, we definitely do go talk to the Irving principal, to Irving teachers who really understand how year-round works, because it's a little different animal. So that'll probably be back. I don't know if it'll be back the 29th or if it'll be next month or what, or the 30th.
Depends if you want it to go through committee first, because committee is not gonna meet for 5 weeks or so.
Oh, HR committee you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
So the year-round will be coming, but we do the traditional first usually.
And year-round, we want to align those professional development days too, so we're not getting people in cross space.
Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the board monthly financial reports, excuse me.
This is for September, so September, as you can see, on the balance sheet, you see 11 different funds. Our big one typically is our general fund. That's where a lot of all the salaries come out of, and many of the instructional supplies, some equipment there. Activity fund is all our activities, our athletics, and our intracurriculars. Management fund, we pay early retirements out of there. Also our insurance, our liability, our work comp, those are the big chunks out of the management fund. Pearl is new last year. We took it to the community and they voted that in, and it's for playgrounds and community ed. So, and it was very timely because we built 3 new playgrounds and then just redid a 4th, and it's really about $500,000 per playground, when you figure everything in. So right now, we don't have any stylings for those funds right now. Ken Breslin wanted us to look more at a community ed type position, and that's more in the works of, we need to figure what we want to do with that. Some people use it for adult ed, it's community ed, can be parenting classes, can be a lot of different things. There's a lot of opportunity out there that hasn't been vetted, but again, we're saving this money. We know a next playground would be $500,000, so it's gonna take a few years to get to that, if we get, to do that, if we don't do anything with the community ed. Local option sales tax is that 1 penny sales tax. That's basically construction, big equipment, stuff like that, projects that are, building projects. Our auxiliary services building is a piece of that, for the funds that are in there right now. The physical plant and equipment, the PEPL fund is same uses as the local option sales tax, so building, so we're using those 2 funds to help build this auxiliary building that's in the works right now. Debt service.
Typically, we'll take buses out of PEPL too. You'll see them.
Buses out of PEPL. We do a lot of different maintenance out of PEPL, roofs, some technology out of SAVE or PEPAL can come out of that as well. Debt service, we have several different bonds, general obligation bonds and sales tax bonds. So we borrowed ahead on our sales tax, and that is, the debt service fund just basically, it's like your mortgage, that they'll push it out for 20 years and then we pay it as it happens. And so we push that money into there. That's maximum of $4.05 on our budget. Food and nutrition, the nutrition fund, it's all our food service programming. Child care fund is our Indianola child care, so our after school and before school programming. Self-insurance is new 2 years ago as well. It's our self-insurance for our health care, our health insurance and dental insurance. And agency funds would be, basically that's an in and out. It'd be like the Booster Club will put money in there to be used. And then it's earmarked just for those pieces. There's the PTOs. It's kind of a, it's kind of hard to explain because they go in and it goes out. There's no real budget for that at all. It's its own kind of animal. And there's about maybe 10 different entities that are involved in that, but it's outside entities that have a finger into the district and supporting us. So I basically show you from year to year where we are from last year to this year. General fund, you'll see we're up over $1 million from last year. We received a lot of federal money for COVID, that we've been able to use that in lieu of our general fund. So we've saved that piece if there was something, a lot of, like our at-risk dollars, we've been able to use some of the COVID funds for that and different things, and we're going to talk about that in a minute as well. But that's a big difference. Otherwise, you see our management fund, we try to grow that for our next possible early retirement. And again, Pearl is new, and you'll see the local option and the PEPAL funds we're trying to gain funds on those so we can use that for our building that we're trying to build. Debt service is negative, so we have a big payment that's always due July 1st. What's interesting is all these funds are in one bank account. So we do go negative on that until we get our property tax, which is in October. It's kind of my favorite month. October and April are the two good months because we get a chunk of our sales. We're very cash heavy at that time. Cash light in August, but cash heavy at that time. So you can that'll go healthy again. And then nutrition has done very, very well in COVID because they're giving us more per meal than we've ever gotten before. So they've been healthy. Also childcare, there's a lot of funds out there for childcare right now with the COVID, with all the stuff that's going on with COVID. So that has healed itself too. So, and our self-insurance fund, our goal is to probably get, I think that they want us to get at least 1 year's expenses, and that's about $3 million. So we ended up first year at about 850 at the end of the year, this year at about 1.5. So if tracking happens, we could be there in a couple years. Any questions on any of that?
What is the fiscal year for this?
July to June.
Okay.
So this is 3 months in, but this is, 3 months in. But it's a balance sheet, so it's cash.
And your end, is it quarterly? How does your allotment come in?
For state, we get state funds as well. State funds come in 10 months from September to June. Property tax comes in basically October and April, but then you always have the people that lag, and you'll get some of that delinquent after the fact, and it trickles in, but typically those are my 2 big months. So revenue, that's general fund, and that's property tax hits all of these funds, with the exception of activity and nutrition, childcare, in the last 4. The childcare, nutrition, self-insurance, and activity, or agency. So there's property tax in all those pieces. See, I told you it's fun, so.
We will have to have a vote to approve the monthly financials.
If you have a question on the next, well, let me go through the next one quickly, sorry.
Oh, that's
I'll be
okay.
quick. The next, go down to Ray, this is our certified budget budget is different than cash. So budget, what our budget is for the year, in 4 different areas across all those, 10 plus funds, has to fit somewhere in these 4 different areas. So, the board looks at this to make sure that we're not gonna go over. So if this is the first quarter, technically, if everything was even, you'd be at 25% for everything. And you notice that we're low because July and August are short months, or low months, so. But that kind of explains, down below it explains kind of what it is. We'll get into more of that. I don't know if we're gonna do a work session of some kind for.
Yeah, we're looking at doing something in January. Yeah, we hope to never have that percent spent be 100% of the fiscal year complete. We're 25% of the fiscal year complete. We've spent 15.9%. We hope to never spend all of our maximum approved budget.
And then the last one that we show is a cash flow comparison, so you can see where, and you see that's how the funding happens. So it's it dips down in August, and then it starts to go back. October's big, April's big, and then we end the year and start all over again, so.
And with that, I mean, that's, when you see that ebb and flow when the money comes in, that's why you want to have a healthy solvency ratio, healthy cash position, and also unspent balance, because you do have those natural dips during the year when you're spending money, but you don't have much funding coming in. And if you don't have a little bit of cushion there, then you can get in a situation. I've known districts that actually have to borrow money to pay the bills and wait for the property tax money to come in. That's not a good position to be in, so.
We aren't in that position.
No, John has done a very good job. We've done a good job of being stewards. We're typically in that 15 to 20% range for solvency ratio and unspent balance. So that's a good place to be.
To approve the September 2021 financials.
Motion made by Ben to approve. Donna, seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the
next
Yeah, go ahead,
piece,
John.
this is part of the budget, sort of. We're trying to get something that, with the ESSER funds, you can see the next sheet.
And this was part of the monthly financials too, but if you see that ESSER 3 plan and estimated budget in there too, this is just a little more fleshed out information for you. We have had this plan reported to the Department of Education. We had a chance for public input on it. We have it on the website, but Jonna put some budget numbers with it here for you as well. And then that is something she submits bills quarterly as money is spent. So.
Can you say what that acronym stands for?
You should know it. Elementary and secondary, it's emergency relief. I can't remember the second S, secondary support.
That's true, that's the COVID,
Schools,
the
I
COVID
think.
funds
Elementary
are called
and
ESSER.
schools.
The COVID funds are called ESSER,
Yeah.
so that's what that.
So basically, I think that this might be shown, I wanted to show you where we are. So we received, you can see up at the top, we received 2.14 million of regular COVID ESSER 3 funds. 535,000 is used for, you can either call it learning, the loss that didn't happen, or accelerated learning because they need to catch up. So those pieces, that's where we received, we've been told we're going to get that. Fourth quarter, which was June 30 of last fiscal year, we'd spent, you can see those figures, 460,000 and 41,000 in those areas. So balance as of July 1 going forward will show this. And so November, we have to report this by the end of November. And so hopefully I'll be able to get something that shows, so we can kind of track this as we go along. Because some of this is going to go for possibly 2 years. And we'll see, right now, we're kind of estimating that. We'll see if something comes up that trumps it for whatever reason. But this is where the budget, again, an estimate is, so.
The next is the 2022-2023 budget development.
Okay.
modified supplemental amount request.
So this is, so in this, if you look at the, we'll go to the second sheet, Ray. The modified supplemental amounts, so these areas, so in, for example, in September, we approved the special ed deficit from the previous year. It was, for last year, it was $129,000. So what that is we overspent our special ed expenses by $129,000. With Iowa law, we can ask for that money back. There's certain areas where we can ask for that back, and this is the list of those. As budget, so budget to spend that back. So you can see the year ago, we had $819,000 for our special ed deficit. That, it's hard to tell because we have people that move in and out all the time with different needs, so we never know what that's gonna be till probably July 15th or about July 15th of each year. So, but the ones that, so that one was taken care of in September. The next previous year LAP costs, so that's
limited English proficiency.
so it's our kids that don't speak English as their first language. We have 2 teachers and 2 associates, and so we get funds, similar to the special ed deficit, we get funds, or a budget amount from the state, but not enough. So anything that we have, that we spend extra, we account for, and then we can get that back as budget funds, yeah, I guess. It's not funds, because it's, the ability to spend this doesn't come with dollars. So that's the confusing thing.
This is one of the confusing parts of Iowa school finance. Okay, where you saw the cash flow jagged thing, that's actual money. Okay, that's money we have on hand. Now we're talking about budget authority, which is permission to spend it. You can have all the money in the world, and if you don't have the permission to spend it, you can't spend it in Iowa school finance. So you have to track both authority and cash. So when we talk about solvency ratio, that's our cash. When we talk about budget authority, that's this piece. And Jana is very good at requesting all the authority we're able to request. It doesn't always even mean a tax increase, because you can approve, like in September, we approved this $129,000 of authority, the overspending of the special ed funding we got. We don't necessarily have to go levy all that back when we build the budget and you approve the budget in the spring. So we'll look at that total levy, we'll look at what we're allowed by statute to cash reserve levy, and we'll decide what that amount is that we need to, to give the program we have to give, and also so we're not jacking our levy rate all over the place, giving people whiplash with their taxes. So, it's just the concept of cash and authority. If you can get that as a starting point, and cash is like money in the bank, and authority is like credit card limit, what you're allowed to spend, and then we have to track them both. So, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So these are amounts in 2022 to 23 that you could be eligible for.
So the 508,000 at the bottom? Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And
a
if
year
you have
ago-
an authorized expense, then these monies are fenced only for those authorized expenses.
They're categorical. They call it categorical. So each of these are. So if we have limited English students, we try to make sure that all those expenses that they have go through those funds, because you could technically put them through the general fund, but then
You wouldn't want to.
Right.
Yep,
You're
I'm
wanting
tracking.
pigeonhole them, so to speak.
Yep.
So the previous LAP, that's from last year. The LAP, again, limited English, they give them 5 years of authority, or like 0.22%, and now they've changed that. It's one student, and 1.0 student is over $7,000 per student. This is 0.22 of a student additional, because they need a little extra help. They've just changed that to be more intensive and not so intensive, and then that's now 0.21 and 0.26. That calculation is that 18,000. So not a lot of money, but every little bit helps with those programs.
What percentage of these available funds did you execute in 21 to 22, roughly? So if you had authorized expenses in your 21 to 22 column, right, $1,270,000, were you able to execute like a certain percentage?
What did
of
we
that?
cash reserve levy?
Oh, last year we couldn't cash reserve very much. Well, no, I'd have to look at that. It was less than that because, so that we have that to go forward with.
Sure.
Because, so I'm trying to, I don't have that right, I can tell you what that is, but I just don't have that up. It was, I know that 22, 23, we already know what we can levy for next year is over, just at 600,000. So at the 508, we can do all those if the budget allows and then.
General fund to augment the rest.
And we could do the 600,000 because last year we didn't spend, or we didn't accept all the 1.27, so.
Nope, sorry.
In the years before, there's been years that.
It's been as low as 94,000 or as high as 1.3 million in the last 7 years.
And it's calculated on the year end, if you're less than 20% of our budget, so of the revenues. So if you, you want to get to that.
It kind of cycles, if you cash reserve levy your maximum, then not too long after that, you're gonna have a very low number that you can cash reserve
It
levy.
could be bad, it could jump up and down, so we try to minimize that as much as we can. It's not easy all the time to do that, and again, we'll go through that at finance and at future board meetings as well. But then you look at the very bottom, it talks about if you were to levy all those on the current district valuation of the 1,032 million, it'd be about 50 cents to do that, to gain that 508,000. So, but what I have to ask for are the LAP instruction beyond 5 years and the open enrollment out students not in fall count of 2020. So that's an odd one. So basically what happens is we get people that move into the district and immediately go back to Norwalk. So they never darkened our doors, but we have to pay for them. So we get pre-budget to be able to pay for them in this current year. So that's an odd thing. An increase in enrollment, we didn't have an increase in enrollment this year, so that's zero. So those, I need separate motions on those, Rob, if we could.
First one would be the recommendation.
Is the budget development? No, just.
Letter B.
LAP instruction beyond 5 years.
Sorry,
Okay,
guys.
limited
Page
English
78.
profession. Page what?
78 of your board packet. Letter B, recommendation to approve.
Okay, so I move that we approve the requested amount of that number
Okay.
for access limited English proficient cost in the 2020-21 school year.
Okay. That's, is that right? What we're doing there?
18,000.
Yes. 18,573.39 and 250,000.
Is it just the excess that we need, or the excess cost, or is it just the LAP instruction beyond 5 years?
That's in the next.
Okay, gotcha.
So the first one is 78, letter B.
Okay.
Just for,
Just make a motion to approve the maximum modified supplemental amount as follows.
yes.
The instruction bound beyond 5 years at 18,573.39. And is that one motion?
That's one.
Who's
by
second?
itself.
Second it. Seconded by, motion made by Sue, seconded by Ben. Any further discussion by the board on this motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Go ahead, Sue.
Yep.
Okay, make a motion to approve the maximum modified supplemental amount as follows for the OE out students not in fall 2020 count, $250,908.80.
There we go. Motion made by Sue.
Second.
Seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
The next one is again, we have to put it in separate motions specifically because they're asking for that from the Department of Ed for the LAP allowable costs from last year, the expense that we overspent our budget by.
Page 80, line B would be the recommendation for a motion there.
motion to authorize the requested amount of $110,076.70 for excess limited English proficient cost in the 2020-2021 school year.
Motion by Sue to approve. Sorry, didn't hear.
Sorry, this is me.
Seconded by Donna.
Second.
Any further discussion by the board?
2021, because it's last year.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Sue, you just spent a lot of money tonight.
I'm sorry.
Approved.
For the first time.
Asked for a lot of money.
Asked for a lot of money.
That's what's out of
Next is the facilities project update.
We've been in our new auditorium, even as it's not quite finished. I think the acoustics will get a little bit better as we get the fabric panels we've been waiting on, and we'll be able to get the last seats back in after that too. But it's been a very good project, so we are looking forward to getting that wrapped up. We had acoustical panels back ordered, and we've kind of been tracking all the way along when we're going to get that done. So we're working on that. I alluded earlier in the meeting to needing a special meeting at some point to give Envision Architects approval for final plan. We have been working, having meetings just about every week to look at budget. We've been trying to consider the impact of increased cost with supply chain things. I had a meeting last Wednesday actually to kind of shrink scope a little bit and try to get that budget to a place where it's livable. We can afford it. This is, as John was saying, a build-as-you-go type project. We've been budgeting for this for several years in PEPL and the sales tax funds, and we're getting close there. So the plan is very close to complete, and we want to get that in front of all the board in terms of the programming that's represented in there and get approval, and we have to do that before we can go out to bid later this winter. A longer-term bit of planning going on. You'll see high school renovation task force. We've had a small group of community members get together a couple times and talk about kind of vision for the future for the high school and what direction that might go. Everything from, do little and kind of piecemeal as we go, which has sort of been the program for the last 20, 30 years, to do we look for a huge 70, 80 acre piece of ground somewhere and start all new. To date, the task force hasn't favored either one of those approaches, and there are all kinds of things in between in terms of rebuilding in place or doing some new building. How much of that is remodel, how much is new building? I know that just this last week, Envision Architects met with a group at the high school, group of high school staff as well. So they continue to have some kind of small group meetings, and at some point there will be a recommendation that comes to the board here in terms of what approach the board wants to take going forward. If we're going to do significant work at the high school, that's going to be a sizable bond issue. So we have bonding capacity. That's something we work with the bond agents on. Last number I heard was around 90 million. And that can change as we pay off bonds. John has worked really hard since 2016 at refinancing bonds and prepaying bonds. So we've saved over $8.3 million of future interest in refinancing the last 5 years. We are in a position that as we get to the point when we're ready to go out to the public and ask them to vote for some high school work, we'll be in a position where the tax levy rate shouldn't increase because of that. I would compare it to maybe you have 8 years left on your mortgage. You've been prepaying it, paying it off, and then you have a project you want to do, and you stretch it back out by years. That'd be the situation we'd be in if there were a bond issue. There are only 2 dates that schools can have bond issue votes now, one in March, one in September. I think it's the feeling of Envision and everybody that we can't have enough of a plan, enough communication, know what we would even ask of the community to have a vote in March. So the earliest anything would happen would be next September. But that's kind of what we're angling. So that'll That'll be on here as an update item. Some meetings, there'll be more to report than others, but that's kind of where we're at on that right now. And then the master plan to-do list, we had a facility study done in 2019 by an architect group that went through and kind of did a current state of every building, every piece of our facilities, did a number rating on it. Recently, Bernie has been working on doing an updated report of what we've addressed so far and where we're at in terms of that study that was done. And this is related to that. Is that right, Jonna? Anything you want to add to that?
It's just nice that he was able to partner with Mr. Hagens, who is our vocational tech teacher, and the local union to help get the concrete pad poured. So now they'll have space, I believe, on both sides of the press box. So.
Is there any way we can do some like a little bit of PR on like the auditorium renovations, kind of what you and I had spoken about earlier, just to let the community know like what we've spent some money on over there lately.
Yeah,
and then
we
also
can certainly
maybe
do that. John would be in a great position to look back through. I mean, I can tell you before these things here, which are very noticeable. I mean, if you remember what the seats were like before we replaced them, or you remember what it looked like before we painted, those things are very noticeable. But prior to that, we spent $300,000 on rigging, which you don't see, but which is an important safety thing, and quality control. So I think that it'd just be a matter of kind of looking back through the last couple of years and
then also maybe like on
cataloging
these smaller, like the ADA seating. I mean, that'd be nice to show people in the district that this class and the labor union work together. That I think would be a nice announcement.
Yeah, that's something too. Maybe our next facilities meeting, maybe that can be an agenda item, and then we'll get it in our minutes too. We can talk about it here at our next meeting. Then after that,
If it's pictures, that picture worthy on Facebook or other.
yeah.
Good. Okay. Next is the set official depositors. This will be a board vote here.
Those are all three different motions.
No, that's just one.
Make a motion to set the following depositors and depositor limits. People's Bank 25 million, ISJIT 10 million, and UMB 10 million.
Seconded by Tim. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is set the official newspaper, and Johnny, you said it does have to be through a print
It has to be a
publication.
print, paper that has the broad coverage in the district. So it's
The
old school.
Indianola Community Living magazine would not count.
No, and neither would Advocate, because same
And we
reason.
did check, with the independent advocate last time this came around, just to make sure. But there are certain notices we're required to publish, and this is related to Iowa code and the fact that it has to be a print newspaper. So I understand a lot of people get their news electronically today, and this is just kind of maybe a part of the Iowa code that hasn't caught up with how people are getting their news. So.
Move to designate the Indianola Record Herald as the official newspaper for publications.
Motion made by Ben. Seconded by Ryan. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Update on the OSHA.
Yeah, this is in here for your information. Some of you may be following this quite closely. Others, you may just have some idea. You may have heard the phrase vaccine mandate, or employers over 100. This is being contested in the courts. There is a bit of information that came out after this packet went out even. So, it is kind of a moving target. Tomorrow there's a sort of a lottery that will decide which court will speak for all courts because there are all these little different legal actions that are happening. For example, the Fifth Circuit, you might have heard of, has had a couple of emergency stays on this requirement. But we're in the Eighth Circuit. So until this gets kicked up to the Supreme Court, or this process coming up, this lottery, maybe Eighth Circuit gets drawn out, and the Eighth Circuit gets to decide for everybody, or Fifth Circuit gets to decide for everybody. Meanwhile, while all this jockeying is going on, Iowa is one of 26 states that has an OSHA, occupational safety health rule that follows the feds. So federal OSHA dictates the Iowa OSHA plan. So we're being told that we need to be prepared that by December 6th, we need to know everybody's vaccination status and need to be planning, and then by January 4th, that is when the testing requirement kicks in. So there are waivers also, okay? There are waivers for the vaccination for both religious and health reasons that employees can attain. There are waivers for masking. Okay, the emergency rule from OSHA says that you either have to be fully vaccinated by December 6th, or you have to be masking and testing weekly.
With the exempt.
Yes, if you can get a waiver from either the vaccination, either it says and or, from both vaccination status and wearing masking, and we have to keep a record of that. We'll have a separate, data set saying for each employee, fully vaccinated, partially vaccinated, not vaccinated, and why.
What does the waiver actually cover?
The waiver can be if you have a religious or medical reason not to get the vaccine, you can get the waiver and you don't have to get vaccinated.
Right, but you still have to test.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you still have to mask.
No, you can get a waiver for the mask as well,
Okay.
but the testing is the thing that, it's pretty tough because you have to test every 7 days maximum, and the employee has to report those results to the district, and if they don't, then there's discipline. Either, we're expected as the employer to either put them on unpaid leave until they get it fixed, or terminate.
And that's, the testing is at their own cost.
Yes, that's.
The templates that came out from IASB show where are you requesting an accommodation from? The vaccination, the testing for the vaccination, and the use of face covering. So there's 3 exemption opportunities in that medical accommodation request form that was the template from.
You could also request exemption from the testing of the vaccination.
Oh.
The vaccination, the testing for COVID-19, and the use of face coverings were the 3 items that are included in that exemption form.
Okay. Well, that's different from the guidance we got from Hollers and Cooney, school attorney, because as I read that, they did not, I thought we were still on the hook for the testing. Now, IASB, Iowa Association of School Boards, okay, we do take our cue from policy on them typically. They had been saying for probably a month that guidance was forthcoming. We had nothing. Then we did get this guidance from Eilers and Cooney, which I put in the packet, our school attorney. And then 2 days ago, IASB sent sample policies. We had talked about administrative policy versus board policy, because this is a 6-month deal. That's how long these emergency orders, like this OSHA order, usually last, 6 months. Well, we don't usually operate on the board policy level for that time period. We just talked about reviewing them every 5 years. We don't usually put one in that we know might only be there for a few months. So we did take a template from Eilers and Cooney. We sat down business office staff, HR staff, and me went through, wrote this administrative policy. I plan to share that with staff tomorrow because I want to give people a heads up, but I am going to contextualize it too and say, hey, there are ongoing challenges here, and also we don't have the waivers in our system yet where they can be easily uploaded. We're trying to work out some bugs on that. So there's a lot to this, but I know, like I said, you probably have some awareness of it. I just wanted you to see the earliest guidance we got, which is this, but that could change.
Is there any way we can make sure, like, we really make sure to these people know where these waivers and exemptions are? Because I know several companies that have bobbled that. And
No, they absolutely will. That's why we're waiting. I'm not sending them out until I know they work,
okay.
and we have them.
Yeah.
But I'll communicate that when I send out this policy too. I'll say, be watching for the waivers. We want to make it an easy upload. So.
Are all these waivers coming back to the business office?
Yes.
HR,
yep.
Is there a number, like a percentage of, if we lose so many staff members, when we have to shut down school?
No, I think it would just be a practical thing. For example, I know there was a high school in Iowa that had to close recently, and we're up against that with subs and coverage. We've been talking about it, so there's not a magic number. It just would become at what point can't we cover? So.
Well, it's going to be interesting to make sure that testing part's in there, because I think there could be a big difference between that and an employee having to spend $400 a month out of their pocket to test.
Yeah, and I hadn't even seen that waiver yet that included the testing, so
that's from IASB.
That's from IASB, not from our attorney, so, and our.
They have an attorney on staff, yeah.
Des Moines Public Schools has a drive-through at Hoover High School, because I went through it to be tested.
For free.
And they pay for it. I mean, I don't know who's paid for it, but it's free. I mean, my daughter put her address down because I was going to take care of her kids, and my dad had COVID, so I didn't want to,
Now, there is a drive-through testing at Walgreens too, and I thought I saw a sign that said that was free.
It's free right now,
Yeah, some of them are free. You don't have to pay. You can find it free, I think.
There's still one in that not Mill Civic, 26th.
Oh, I know where you're talking. Near Valley.
Yeah, well, right
Or
around
near Valley West Mall.
Valley West Mall.
Yeah.
I believe that one is free as well.
There's lots of hoops too, because how quickly do you get the results, and, paid time off for them to do.
And what will it do to the system if we do have hundreds? I don't know that number either, but. So, I didn't put this in here to get bogged down tonight, but I just want you to know we're trying to work through it, make sure that we're legal, but that we're doing the best by our employees that we can. So.
And I think I would echo Rob's comment, not to bog it down either, but just to say that there have been a number of people that have, let me rephrase, there have been agencies who've been quick to send the message about what the negative ramifications could be, rather than at the same time providing the resources for those who might not want to go that route. And so I think that any efforts that you do to try and make sure that you present all of that information at the same time is wise. And I think that tactical pause in the current environment, although keeping your everyone informed, is wise as well.
We have those forms created. The intent is, and I've always tried, I continually try to juggle the HIPAA and COVID tracking, because they don't mesh. So with just a couple of us in HR trying to collect these forms, the intent is to have the forms and send it out, but we want to make sure that our upload process is ready, because we don't want them to email them to us. We want them to be able to upload them right to their system, so we can log into the system and yep, as opposed to getting an email or a hard copy, scanning.
What about our staff members who don't have maybe that access to upload stuff because they don't have?
They would have access if they have a device. They can still bring it in if
they can drop it off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can they drop it off at their building?
Able to help though.
Right. Well, no, because we don't want supervisors to have that, so we're trying to be very compliant on the HIPAA side, because, you know, as soon as COVID goes away, well, we're gonna audit your HIPAA compliance, so it's, you know, we're just trying to make sure that we've got the process in place for most of it to be self-service as opposed to, especially if people are testing weekly, I don't want to look at 500 tests weekly and then upload them and attach them to the correct file and taking the manualness out of it.
That's got a tail on it that's really long.
It sure does.
Are these waivers fairly simple to fill out, or are they, okay, and they're coming to you for approval or coming to you to be filed?
They're coming to us to be reviewed, and so there's two of us that will look at them, and then, you know, we technically need to have a list of all employees and what category they fall in, and there's only two of us that will have access to that list to see if hey, this person is vaccinated, this person is not vaccinated, so they need to mask and test, and the policing that comes with that is pretty awesome too. So we're just trying to figure out what that looks like and with the staff that we have, how we can manage it appropriately.
You're reviewing to make sure all the boxes are checked, not reviewing to approve or deny
I
somebody's
mean, there's a pretty, the language is, basically says, there's a sincere belief or something. Well, we're not gonna have people making a judgment about the sincerity of somebody's belief. I think that's what you're getting at.
That was my concern.
Yeah.
The medical accommodation request form gives, you know, details, employee, position, job title, blah, blah, blah. What's the basis for the medical accommodation that you're requesting? What's the requesting, what are you requesting an accommodation from? That's not grammatically correct. Vaccination for COVID, testing for COVID, use of face coverings, employee signature. It doesn't even have a doctor's signature required. This version, again, it's not approved, it's, you know, it's the template that we got, but and even the religious exemption doesn't require clergy signature, so it's kind of, I don't know if that's gonna hold up, in whatever audit, but this was the template that we got directly from IASB, and I just put it on our letterhead.
You know, and we do, you know, as a board, definitely rely on Iowa Association of School Boards. They're the professional organization that we turn to. We expect guidance from, that we pay dues to, so.
Any other discussion around this item? Okay, moving on to the appointment of legal counsel. We do this annually as well.
Right, yep.
So
We have, we've worked with Ehlers and Cooney, Des Moines. It's nice, they serve many schools. Lots of experience with school law, and also big enough that we may know, oh, this person here works with contracts, this person works with special education, this person works with HR. So it's been a good partnership.
So that would be a motion that we need to approve this.
How long have we worked with them?
Well, I know beyond the 7 years I've been, and this is my 8th year, I think it's been a long time. And there are really only a couple of firms of any size that work with schools in the state, and this is one. I'm positive they probably represent well over 100 school districts. And we do, and one of the people we call is a local person too, and very accessible, which is nice.
Ehlers and Cooney Law Firm is our legal counsel.
Motion made by Ben, seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Final is to appoint Mrs. Jonna Clancy herself as the school board secretary.
And only I move to appoint Donna as our school board secretary and treasurer.
Motion made by Ben, seconded by Tim. Any further discussion by the board?
It's not an option.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Jonna, will you please stand? Raise your right hand. Yeah. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and will you faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge all the duties of the office of Board Secretary, Treasurer, and in the Indianola Community School District as now or hereafter required by law. And next is our board calendar.
I don't know that you need to worry, but just know that, know your board calendar is coming and your committee meetings and everything.
Nothing tomorrow,
Usually
that's
it's
what we
full.
know.
So nothing
Usually it's
through
full.
Thanksgiving.
Right.
And then
Oh,
we're
nothing
back,
through Thanksgiving.
and
Okay.
then we're back here on the 30th.
Well, there is something before Thanksgiving, isn't there something?
Just Thursday.
Wednesday. We have the school.
Oh, yes, and there's a flyer in here. If you're,
Education.
Wednesday, if you're free, we have a reception during American Education Week from about, it says 2:15 to 3:45. We'll be there setting up from around 2 to 4. Pizza Ranch very generously brings in some dessert pizza, drinks, feeds staff, and then we have some gifts that we make available. So if you happen to have a Wednesday afternoon free, which I know that's probably not a time for a lot of you, and you want to come say hi to staff, please feel free to do that. And then Thursday, the 18th, we're down for the conference, and I know some of you have conflicts, some of you will be coming later, can't make it, that's fine. This is an annual thing, it's always the same time. It actually runs Wednesday, Thursday, they do some beginning board member things. Donna's gonna go be our delegate to the Delegate Assembly on Wednesday for the legislative platform. It is a good time to try to get together as a group, as much as possible. And I did put an email to you too that I'm looking at, I think January 12th is the date to try to get IASB in to just kind of extend our learning. I did put something out to other schools. We may have some other schools join us, board members and things. All of these extras, again, you heard me talk about our departing members. I'm sensitive to the fact that you work, you have families, you have other activities. So the extras beyond the regular board meeting or any special meetings we have to have, they're nice. I mean, I want you to hit the ground running, learn all you can, but we definitely understand when you have conflicts. So,
12th,
January 12th.
Wednesday.
It is a Wednesday.
Is that an evening?
Yeah, the typical schedule would be have a meal at 5:30, have learning from 6 to 8:30. So that's kind of what we're looking at.
Is that what we went to Sheraton for?
We went to Sheraton, we've been to Van Meter, we hosted it once here years ago, so. And then also, we, at some point too, once we get over that first little learning hump, as we bring new members on too, we want to get together sometime in winter, spring, just kind of talk about the future, do some strategic planning, some goal setting, just take a look ahead. And then, any other kind of topics that were kind of out there lingering that, the board members who were here kind of hit the pause button knowing we're going to have 3 new ones coming on. So there'll be lots of opportunity to talk as we go. Cool. I don't know who's going to take Ken's place.
Well,
Is that you,
I
Ben?
promised Ken.
Have you been anointed?
But,
Go for it.
you're sitting in his
Ben
seat though,
Sitting in
go
his
for
chair.
it, man.
I moved to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. I don't know if I sounded like him or not, but.
Adjourn.
Somebody second that?
Ben, you want a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Hey,
Yes.
whatever happened with the mental health grant?